Welcome to the Extinction Level Event Podcast, Apocalypse Edition. This is, I believe, episode 3. I am your host, the Barrelman. Now, we got a few topics to go over today. Let's see. So they have record high smog in Pakistan. That's a bit of a weird one, I gotta say. ELE, New York, Hong Kong, Beijing, Moscow, like all these places, sure. But record high smog in Pakistan, that's kind of nuts. I didn't see a lot of them saying why. They seem to be pointing a lot to drivers, especially in the videos they were showing during the article, but that's just kind of nuts. Smog is never a good thing. Record high smog, definitely not. But record high smog in a place a place like Pakistan, it's kind of nuts, man. It's even getting out there. So right now they're having the COP29 conference. I don't really know what that stands for. I will definitely look up more about it. I believe that conference is going on all week. I'm not sure. Which means we won't really get a ton of information until everything is really done, right? But the news likes to run things, especially when these things get started. It's sort of, this is what we're looking at, this is what we expect kind of a thing. So, and one of the things they had mentioned is that the conference says we are at 1.3 degrees Celsius above norm right now. So, I remember that they were saying, like way back, I don't know, in the late 90s, 2000s, whenever this was really starting to ramp up and become a thing, and they really started giving us like facts and figures and predictions. They were saying something about getting to 1 degree Celsius and that being bad. Then they were saying we could be as bad as 1.5. This is, I think, like end of the century kind of stuff. And then they were saying, what we don't want, no matter what, is to get to the 2, because that's like a tipping point, and then it's goodbye Earth. That's what they were saying. Is that true? We don't know. The Earth is a lot more complex than a lot of the predictive models take into account. Does that mean, hey, don't worry about it, man, we got it, it's all good? No. That means, A, we could be more screwed than they're saying, or we could be less. Like, we really just don't know. But it's not a good target. And the 2.0 was like, holy crap, we don't want to get to that. We want to do everything we can not to get to there. And now they're saying they want to stop it at a 1.5. That's what they're looking at. Stop it at 1.5 degrees Celsius. And that's like a best case scenario kind of projection. Or at least if we do a lot of good stuff and not a lot of bad stuff, we could maybe curb it to 1.2 end of the century. But realistically, on the path we're on, even if we do some stuff, we're probably looking at 2 for sure. And they're saying this like, it's 2, whatever, it's going to be 2. At least it's not 7 or 12 or you know what I mean? It's like when 2 used to be doomsday. Now 2 is kind of like, at least it's not 5, So that's just kind of terrifying there. But like I said, we'll find out more when the conference actually ends, and maybe they'll put out some documentation, and we could look through it and talk about it more. But for now, that's not the most fun thing in the world. Now the Philippines are upset with China over some new oceanic laws and regulations that they're putting on to try to strengthen the borders, essentially, of their territory. So here we have them stirring stuff up. And China and Russia, North Korea, these are the big 3 that we really kind of just want to leave alone and don't want to have anything to do with, right? Because they've all got nuclear missiles, and they wave them around like, I don't know, dollar bills, y'all, at a strip club or at just a regular club, I guess, even. Either way, yeah, this messing with these countries and making them irritated or angry is not a good thing, because who knows when enough will be enough. You know what I mean? So this, a lot of people are probably thinking right now, well, this is more political. This isn't climate change. And you're 100% correct. This is not the climate change podcast. This is the we're all going to die and this is how podcast. Like this is the humanity's coming to an end podcast. This is not specifically a climate change podcast. Climate change has a lot to do with it. We're definitely going to get into that stuff. Don't worry about that. But this is I'm just marking out all the different ways that we're going to come to our inevitable end. And there's lots of possibilities. You know, there's forks in the road. There's, well, we can go this way or we can go that way. There's some inevitable blocks that are like, yeah, can we get around it? Absolutely. But it's going to happen. It's not a question of if, it's not even a question of when. It's like, no, we know when, and such is going to happen. And, you know, what are we going to do about it? For instance, the big one is the sun turning into a red giant, right? And once it burns through all of its hydrogen and starts burning its helium, it's going to expand. It's going to either envelop the Earth or knock it into becoming a rogue planet. Either way, it's not going to be good. This is not an if, and it's not a when. I mean, it's a little bit of a when, because we don't know like the exact date and when the sun's expansion's going to come to the point where we're not going to be able to live on Earth anymore. Sure, there's a little bit of when, but we kind of know that this is coming in a general idea. So less when and more, it's definitely going to happen, right? More of the, okay, this isn't a question, what do we do about it? So that's just one of the things that I'm mentioning as far as it's like a potential doomsday scenario. We could totally be prepared for it. We could do something about this, not stopping the sun from becoming a red giant. That's just a matter of physics. It's not, oh, well, we just inject, black uranium or whatever. And then, no, that's, we either let the sun do its sun thing, or we somehow come up with the technology that they had in Star Trek Generations. Yeah, I know, I hate to bring that one up, but no, thinking about it, it would definitely be worth thinking about, even if we don't have like the blast wave that comes out and annihilates the entire solar system. Oh, we're still going to be dead, because there's going to be no star at the center. There's going to be nothing holding the solar system together. It's going to be worse. So, and some people might think, well, how's it going to be worse? I mean, if the sun blows up or the sun, whatever, the sun's the problem, right? We're going to die. No, trust me, everything going everywhere could be a lot worse than just we kind of know what's going to happen, Sun just being gone is chaos. The sun turning into a red giant is at least a predictable event that we can prepare for. So we have that, right? And that's definitely one of those, what might be considered a great filter, right? Something we'll talk about more, the Drake equation and the Fermi paradox and the great filters, especially because of how they apply to our own doomsday and when and if that comes, right? But yeah, it can come there, or we could just blow each other up with nuclear bombs tomorrow and never have to, not even have to worry about that. There's a lot of turmoil in Haiti right now, politically speaking, all right? There's a lot of revenge stuff going on down there. And then what happened after that wasn't in the notes was Spirit Airlines. I don't know where they were flying from. I think it was like ELE or something, but I don't remember. But they tried to land in Haiti or go to Haiti, and they got riddled with bullets. And people are suspending flights. I think they said till either Thursday or Friday. That'll be today or tomorrow when I'm recording this. But the point is, we're doing that in the midst of Trump talking about them eating all the cats and dogs and deporting them, despite the fact that they are actually legal immigrants. This is, again, it seems like, well, yeah, but that's a political thing, right? Yes, but this gets into the whole World War III kind of narrative, it also gets into climate change because politics plays a large role in migration, which is what's going to happen during climate change. People are going to have to migrate out of the places that are murdering them. Like when we had last year during the summer, all the people in Phoenix dying from the heat. Well, it's not going to get any better this year. I mean, it would be great. Maybe we have an off season this year, maybe even a couple of off seasons where everybody doesn't get murdered in Phoenix from the heat. It's entirely possible. It's not impossible. But as a trend, yeah, it's just going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So that's a factor when we say, hey, we're going to kick all these people out back to Haiti when we've already embraced them because they're legal immigrants, and we're like, yeah, but they're different from us. They weren't born here, so get rid of them all, deport them all, forget them. They're not part of the system. They're not making the system better, quote unquote better in their eyes. We're getting rid of them. So that's definitely an issue because, like I said, of migration, which ties into climate change because that's going to be happening. So even though, yeah, it seems more political than anything else, the truth is that it's all wrapped up together, and it does have bearing on things like climate change. This is a point in time where there's a lot of like comets and meteor showers and stuff going by, but we have been getting a lot of meteorite activity, which is a little nerve-wracking since that's another one of those doomsday scenarios, right? The next Chicxulub. Now, we have our eye on a ton of the larger planet-killing asteroids and where they are, and there's Apophis that has been largely blown out of proportion as far as how big it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, it'd be detrimental to get hit with the thing, but I'm fairly certain that I read that it is not, in fact, a planet killer. It's more like a country killer, which, again, that's not good. It's definitely terrible, but humanity will go on, right? Let's hope it doesn't hit us, kind of a thing. These objects can be basically anywhere, and we could hardly know because they're not very reflective. They're not colorful. They're not easy to see. The ones that are headed towards us from deeper space, from towards the outer planets, are actually easier to see because the sun hits them or reflects them. Easier, not easy. And especially now that we have a lot of amateur astrologers, they said, but ones that come at us from the other side, that come towards us from the sun side, those ones are a lot tougher to see because the sun is so bright that you don't really see like a shadow from them or anything. They're just kind of invisible. So just the frequency is, it gets you a little on edge for that kind of thing. And again, we go back to the whole, if a giant asteroid's coming, are they just going to not say anything so that nobody panics? And that always is a worrisome thing, right? And now the last big thing that we're going to talk about, again, it's going to seem very political, but this goes, again, to another one of those doomsday scenarios, which is what we're talking about here. And this isn't a conspiracy channel. I don't want to go into, Bigfoot's rising up and destroying us, or aliens landing and murdering everybody or anything like that. We'll go over, no, not the Bigfoot's rising, but like the alien thing, but not because it's going to happen and we're going to get, taken over by aliens. It's because it's, what I called in the before times of the podcast, red herring. It's one of those giant conspiracies that everybody's always talking about, that it's a huge thing. It's not a thing, right? It is a red herring. It's my most popular episode was called AI Mageddon, and it was a red herring episode, all about how AI is supposed to rise up and be all Skynet-like and destroy us, and that's not really going to happen. If something happens with AI, it's going to be a programming error. Some glitch, some logical fallacy that happens where doomsday gets triggered because the AI is not smart enough, despite how everybody thinks because it's too smart, is not smart enough to go, oh, that was just a test. Oh, that was a glitch. Nobody actually launched nukes at us, which has happened several times where, we've almost nuked ourselves because of a problem, something that was a test that was not given the proper alert, and nobody knew it was a test because it went off when it wasn't supposed. All these kinds of things where people literally had their finger on the button, and World War III almost started. Like, this happened like 2 or 3 different times. Terrifying, but that's people with judgment who basically got, common sense, and they're like, maybe I don't want to destroy the entire planet with World War III. I want to make, like, not just sure, but like double, triple, ultra sure first. And an AI wouldn't make that distinction. So that would be the only way that I see that AI like ends up destroying us. But again, programmer inadequacy, if you want to look at it like that, where the code is perfectly fine, it's not glitchy, it's just they didn't think far enough ahead, they didn't think far enough into some of these doomsday scenarios to have covered their bases, if you will. So it wasn't really a glitch like something went wrong, everything went right, it just wasn't programmed to handle this particular scenario. And they didn't understand that this was not really an attack, you know what I mean? Those are the scenarios with AI we're looking at. Dependence on AI, where AI is not smart enough to depend on, especially at this late stage. It is not the Skynet thing. That's the red herring. The Skynet machines rise up and destroy us. True artificial intelligence, artificial life, more important. Artificial life more than just intelligence. So I saw this morning there was an article that was talking about Trump, who wants to, he was not very happy with the fact that the generals can basically tell you to go F yourself, because while he has some control, because he's quote-unquote commander-in-chief, he doesn't have direct control over the military. Like, they're still their own thing, which he was not very appreciative of. And now he's trying to make it so that he can install whoever he wants to be in command and make sure that they are going to do anything that he asks of them. I mention that because when he's trying to stack the military with these guys, it's going to be like the Supreme Court in that they're going to be complicit to anything that he says. They're going to be his yes men. He's going to get whatever the hell he wants. And unfortunately, that's going to mean if he says we're going to bomb Mexico and root out these drug cartels through military action, then that's what's going to happen, and everybody's going to go, wait, you can't. Canada's going to start, chattering their teeth on their fingernails, right? As soon as they see that happen, because then they're going to be like, whoa, what? Are we next? Are we up to date on our Trump vaccines or whatever they need, to keep Trump from looking at them like, hey, you're next. So yeah, it's going to be one of those, this is a huge thing, and we've now become Russia. We've now become North Korea. We've become Israel, It's going to be, we talk about how Texas and New Mexico and California, those places used to actually be part of Mexico, and then we basically, and I don't remember if we bought them or if we just basically took them over. But yeah, so they used to be part of Mexico, and then maybe one day we'll be talking about how Mexico used to be part of Mexico. And now it's, 10 new states or something like that. Like, who knows? And of course, they're all going to have to learn English, which will probably by then be the official language of the United States, right? The official language. It's definitely going to be interesting, that's for sure. But this is that whole sparking off a World War III thing. This isn't just about, hey, it's politics, this and that. Again, politics is important for sure, and politics is deeply involved in climate change of all things, right? But this happens to be how politics is playing out and setting the stage for greater disasters, right? This sort of slippery slope down to a World War III. We're pressing the bomb, we're pressing the button, launching the bombs, everybody's dead. So, and World War III is definitely something we will get into as a dedicated topic. We're not doing that right now, but it's definitely not a fun thing. We're learning about the cabinet going in, all these people who are going to get placed in there, and the terrible things that it means for people. It's just, if this were Chile or Argentina or something like that, it'd be like, yeah, this is all bad and it's bad for us. But that's it. It's like, okay, it really is just kind of political stuff. We could be doing more for the environment, blah, 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 but for the most part, who cares about us? But this is the United States we're talking about. They're a huge country with a huge influence. We got nukes, we got a huge economy that helps drive the world. We have influence. It's just everything here influences everything else everywhere. So this is one of those. It becomes a problem here, and then it influences other places that really don't have anything directly to do with us necessarily. So the point is that it becomes poignant to talk about political stuff or other things that happen here because of the ramifications it has on the world stage, and whether it's going in a positive or negative direction. Now, money in general is really the defining factor. They say money is the root of all evil. That's not true. Greed is the root of all evil. Really, money is just the MacGuffin, if you will, that drives the greed. And the greed really is dependent on power anyways. Greed is just a way to gain power, to have control over your life, control over your, not just your life, but your lifestyle. That's what I want to say. Greed is the defining factor that decides whether you have a good life, a bad life, and for a lot of people, unfortunately, part of that power is to control other people. You see the elites portrayed in like movies and stuff. They're always the snobby ones with the monocle and sticking their nose up at you and stuff. And the thing that comes along with that, and I'm saying that, but obviously that's more of a caricature than real life, but it's truer than you might imagine, to be honest, some of it. The fact is, when you see that, though, there's always the, hey, Jeeves, do this, hey, Jeeves, do that, kind of a mentality. And having control over other people to do your bidding, if you will, kind of like in, an evil scientist or whatever. That's part of what they want their power for. They want to be able to look at somebody else and get them to do what they want. And it's not always so much as we want you to worship the same God or we want you to forget that slavery ever existed. Trust me, those things exist. But it's more to the effect of, we want you to do something because it makes our life better, as opposed to just, we want you to do something because we believe it's right and you should be doing it. And if we're to apply this to the broader topic here, power is really the purpose for war. Power is the thing that drives everybody to look at everybody else and decide, I want what I want, and you guys maybe or definitely are in my way, depending on your, outlook and everybody else around you, right? It's also why you find, how do I say, you get into the tribalism and you find out that the tribe gets smaller and smaller as you go, right? Right now you have, in my country, the Republicans versus the Democrats. It's not an exact line, right? That's not 100% the way the line is, but essentially that's the lines that have been drawn. Now, let's say all the Democrats were like, you know what? Forget it. You're stacking the deck against us. We actually don't have a way to do anything about this or to get back in power, so we're just going to leave. We're going to go somewhere else. And you have an entire country of nothing but Republicans, right? Natural-born citizen Republicans. Well, that's not going to work. Now, all of a sudden, we've got the divide. Probably the next step would be religious, right? Now, obviously, America, the United States of America, would become a Christian-based country, right? That would be the national religion. Just like the official language would be English, although it would be American, because English is actually different, but it would be, they call it English. The official religion would be Christianity, right? Although even that's going to have its problems. But then you start eliminating all the other religions other than Christianity, right? That's the next step. Now you have Christianity, but then you have, like the Latter-day Saints, they believe in Christ. You have, all these Protestant religions. You have Catholicism. You have these different religions that believe in Christ. Well, now we're going to have to separate that out, because now which one is which? Which is the dominant one? We have to pick that one. And these tribes start getting smaller, and everybody else is gone, and now it's just these guys. And then these guys start looking, and the point is that power, even though you seem to gain it, actually separates you from your people more, not pulls you together. It seems like it's pulling you together, because you're all fighting for this single cause. But you don't realize that the fight itself is what's going to tear you apart. Because you fight for that cause and then you win, but then there's the next fight. And the next fight is always with your neighbors. No matter who your neighbors are, it's always with your neighbors. And then it starts to get to be within your family. And sometimes it's within your family anyways, right? But that's what it is, and it makes it so people who are allies turn on each other because of this power dynamic, because there's always a reason not to trust somebody else. There's always a reason to betray them because it's going to advance you. There's always a reason, right? It's power. And that power is going to drive the world, is going to drive society. And that's, again, tying into the broader topic here, going to be why we end up with a World War III, right? This isn't a World War III episode. We will definitely get into that, and we're going to get a lot more into the actual arms and figures and radiation, ionizing radiation, which is the bad, like all of these things, and take a look at the world and what it looks like now, what it's going to look like after, and all that kind of stuff in a more of a World War III based episode, right? Right now, we're really just talking about the genesis of things like why would there be a World War III, right? Why do we have war? Why is this a thing? Why are we driving our own extinction in this direction? Tribalism is definitely something we will get into at a later time, as is the minimum population, which has been debated. I've seen 10,000 as a figure, but I've also seen that supposedly in the historical record, this isn't a for sure thing, but this is something we believe that's happened, that we got down to 1,000 individuals as far as the human race goes, Homo sapien. And we came back from that, right? 1,000 people, and we came back to this today from that. So what is the number? What is the genetic diversity necessary to continue a species? Don't know, but that is something that we will get into. We'll have that as part of our whole tribalism thing, and looking at extinction and those kinds of things. We're not doing that right now. That's one of those, in the future, we're going to look up some things and have information for you so we can talk more informed about those things that we'll be able to, truly look at and say, this is the way that this is and that is. So now we're just talking in this podcast about other podcasts that we're doing. So I think, mostly we want to get over those beginning topics. That led me down this stupid rabbit hole, so I apologize. It wasn't my intention, but that happens to me a lot, going down these rabbit holes. But again, this is really an outlook, these signposts, these things to look for, right? Especially with looking at the social dynamics and what really drives tribalism and people to start separating each other out, right? Everything we talked about, the communities and whatnot, are in fact these signposts that you can see around you. You can see these things happen. You can see these. You can see life in a more broad sense. When you see something happen, you can go, "Oh, I understand the dynamic of what just happened there." This isn't just about one person being upset with another person. Let's fix this. Here's a gold watch. I hope you're happy now. We're saying, "Oh, this wasn't really even about that. This was a power dynamic. This person felt that their power was taken from them. And what their place is in society has been shaken. Because even if this person apologizes and bring them back and all that, they've now basically been put in their place. They can't exist there now as a functional member who believes that they have an inroad to success and to be able to climb the ladder there, right? To be able to improve their station at that place. This was a much bigger deal than just a couple of people argued about, the coffee creamer being out. You start seeing these things in a broader context. You start breaking them down and go, what does this coffee creamer even really represent? And not in the Freud kind of, it's not really about the coffee creamer. Coffee creamer is just, in your imagination, it's really, your mom didn't hold you enough or whatever to try to keep it clean, right? What we mean is it is about the coffee creamer, but that coffee creamer does represent something. What is it that it represents? And it's usually going to be a context thing. In this office, this coffee creamer is a really rare thing. Or in this office, the coffee creamer is abundant, but somebody has to take it out of the cupboard. Maybe the cupboard's locked, maybe it's not, maybe it's just a lazy. This disagreement about coffee creamer is a much larger issue. We've got to look at it in the context of what is this really about? Because it's not about coffee creamer. That's not what it's actually about, right? So that's the kind of thing when I say all the things we're talking about are signs for you to look at and to see and to notice, because these are the things that need to change, that need to be different if we are going to go into the future and survive as a species and beyond, right? Because the elephant in the room is that the human race is doomed, either because we're going to cause ourselves to go extinct or we're going to cause ourselves to evolve into something more. And again, I think I've said this before, but it's not going to be the X-Men, right? It's just going to be something else. The next stage of evolution, not necessarily a better version of ourselves, just going to be different. More adapted to the climate change, more adapted to the struggles of our planet, more adapted to the more modern technologies that whatever it is, it's going to be adaptation that's going to take over. It's not going to be, all suddenly we're pure energy floating around ruling the universe kind of a thing, right? Not that can't happen. It's just mutation is about adaptation. You don't mutate to adapt. You mutate And the ones who adapt through their mutation better than those who didn't, they perpetuate their genetic diversity and their adaptations. And that's how we get evolution. It's these little teeny changes that over a long period of time of combining our genetics together will then forge what will not be humans anymore. It'll be something beyond human, or just something different, something adjacent to human, right? So the human race is doomed, but it's not necessarily doomed as a bad thing. It could be doomed because we're just going to be better. We're going to be, more adapted to living on this planet. Could be we're more adapted to living on the world ship because we have our planet and we have to live in the middle of space. Whatever it's going to be, humans will not be a thing eventually. Even if our civilization continues, of course our civilization will be gone too, because it'll be a different civilization, even if it's born from our civilization. But all these things will either evolve or die. And that's really what we're talking about. The end is definitely there. There's no escaping it. It can be a good thing, or it could just be this is it. There's no more of us. Like, we're being wiped off the face of the universe. In another 4 billion years, nobody will even know that we had ever existed. And someone's out there thinking, yeah, what about the pyramids and digging? No, remember, red giant sun. It could fry us and every sign that we had ever existed off of the face of the solar system, or it could knock us into space. And I guarantee you we're not going to last long out there in the frigid cold, not to mention we're going to be hitting all sorts of other rogue planets and maybe be captured by a black hole, and who knows. Our planet's not going to be long for this world if we're a rogue planet. And any sign of our civilization is going to be like, okay. Especially if we end up going through a system that has life. Like if a rogue planet, this would be a horrifying scenario. And you could, in and of itself, and we'll talk about this in a future podcast, be the doomsday of us. But let's just say it came through our system and didn't really cause any problems or anything, right? Trying to land somebody on the planet, trying to find anything out about it is going to be extraordinarily difficult, especially if it's just kind of passing through, which is the only way it's not going to be a problem. Is if it just kind of passes through, doesn't hit anything, doesn't really disrupt anything. Not that that's really possible with an entire planet, but let's just say it does. The chances of us being able to put together a program and launch something and land on it and do any exploring whatsoever is going to be slim at best. If we do, then what's the chance that we land in, say, the middle of desolated Tokyo as opposed to the Saharan desert? What signs of life are you going to find in the Saharan desert? Again, this is a rogue planet. The population's been dead for a long time, probably millions or billions of years, right? It's not like, well, they still exist, you might meet. No. Everything's gone. Weathering has taken place as much as it can, to the extent that, a rogue planet will be weathering. So most of the signs of existence are faded, and it would take, archaeologists landing there and combing every square inch to try to find, signs of what used to be cities. So when I say they land in, Tokyo, there's still chances that they don't know it's Tokyo, but they've at least landed someplace where there's a greater chance they could find signs that a civilization existed there. But if they land in the middle of the Sahara, any signs of civilization that were out there are going to be wiped out for the most part. So they're going to have very little chance to know, hey, life even existed on this planet. And that's the short amount of time that they do have to study this rogue planet as it goes through before they can't escape the rogue planet and get back to their own planet without getting, sucked away and dying themselves. So it's not like, rogue planet where at least we'll be preserved like mummies or something. That's not a realistic scenario, right? So either way, if we can't advance enough to migrate, essentially, from this, our planet of origin, humanity will not survive, period, right? So it's not going to be one of those, well, somebody will come along and find out in like 4 billion years. No, in 4 billion years, evidence of life is going to be pretty much gone, especially if we get swallowed up by the sun. It's just going to burn everything away, right? There won't be anything left anyways. And Rogue Planet is not going to be a whole lot better. And we'll probably just end up in a black hole sucked into oblivion anyhow. There goes any signs that we ever existed, right? So, could be good, could be bad, depending on how you look at how humanity is going to end up. So I think we've covered a lot today. We talked about a lot of different little things. And I think that's a good place to just kind of end that. I don't know what it's going to be like in the next podcast. It seemed, like last time I tried to do some of the stories and then have a broader topic that we got into, that we were able to kind of sink our teeth into. This time I have a few topics and there's a break in the weather. And I like to come outside and do my recording because it's a nice time to come out here, look at the birds, at the feeders, just sit out here in the nice outside, take a break from playing No Man's Sky for a little bit. Because, obviously I enjoy playing it or I wouldn't play it, but sometimes you really kind of got to force yourself away. And it's got to be a good enough reason to say, okay, I'm done exploring planets for a while. So I came out here. It's nice. I don't know how long it's going to be not rainy, so it could be raining again tomorrow. So I want to take advantage of it now. So I didn't really have a broader topic really set up. So I think we really kind of, like I said, we went down a lot of rabbit holes. That's kind of the way I do things. I try not to make entire episodes out of rabbit holes, but we kind of, went off the rails a little bit. But when I plan on coming out, when I plan on saying, okay, I want to do it and want to make sure I have another episode done this week or whatever, that's when I'll put more effort into, okay, let's have this topic done. Let's have some facts and figures ready so that we can, talk more about that. And we'll still go over whatever has come up that week or month or whatever since we've talked last that I think is important and we need to discuss, right? So we're going to end this podcast here, and we will talk to you next time. So will we survive our own apocalypse? Only time will tell.